Hello, this is Shooting Nerd, and as promised, this is another follow-up video going through reviewing all the components I used during my tactical rifle class. This review, I'm going to be reviewing the Kalinka optics mount and the HiLux tactical M30 red dot sight. I'll start off with the good. The Belarus-made Kalinka optics mount performed flawlessly after 650, 700 rounds, whatever it ended up being, and a day's worth of just banging around on it. It did not loosen, did not wobble, there was no play in it. The only downside I would say to it is the fact that I'm not sure exactly what metal this is, but on where this mounted on the AK, the next morning when I took it out, or actually the next morning, where it mounts right here, you can see a little bit of white rust. It's what they call galvanic rust. It's not rust in the normal sense. If you ever happen to have copper pipes and galvanized steel pipes in your house, you might have heard about this. But whenever you have electrical contact, enough contact between two metals that are different, and you provide water between them, it forms like a very, very low voltage battery on it, and it'll corrode things. I'm not sure exactly what the metal here is. I actually thought it was a fairly heavy-duty metal, like it was iron, but clearly there's something else in here because basically it looked a little bit like a corroded battery terminal, if you've ever seen that kind of white, frosty-looking corrosion. But aside from that, the mount performed flawlessly. I just really, really thrilled with it. And especially if you're running it in a dry environment, I think you're good to go. Aside from that, I might try to take see if I can get an insulating grease or something like that, maybe to try to prevent the corrosion from happening if it gets wet again. Now, as far as the HiLux, well, the good part about it is the red dot on it worked all day, no problems. Even though it was wet, it functioned fine. The bad news is this is one of those scopes or optics that has little flip caps on it. There used to be one here too. Within about 20 minutes of using it, flip open, flip closed, it broke off. Why was I using it like that? Well, like I said, it was raining, and I don't know didn't have no clue what the durability on this was. So when I was getting ready to shoot, I'd flip it open. When I was done shooting, I'd flip it closed. That way, all the moisture would try to stay on this thing. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't too thrilled with that, so eventually it just broke off. Let's see, I'm just curious here if the red dot will even show up. No. Unfortunately, my vision stinks, so I can't really tell on that viewfinder if it shows up. But it's got a very bright red dot. It's fairly tightly put together. And when you think about the fact that this thing spent probably 10 hours in the rain, the fact that the electronics on this worked pretty well, I can't complain. Especially because, yet another problem, it fogged up on the inside. My guess is that some moisture got onto the diode, the LED that provides you the red dot, got boiled off or just evaporated and then fogged up on the inside of this. The good news is, by the end of the day, it had mostly cleared off again. So the chamber in this optics is, even though it's got a nice little rubber grommet here, it's not very well sealed. It came off, it got wet inside of there and fogged up. Good news is the fog cleared up, but I'd actually prefer to not have to worry about the fog anyways. Because in low light conditions, yeah, you can turn up the red dot bright enough to see it, but you get a little bit of fog and a little bit poor visibility, and you can no longer see your target, and that was a problem. So, from a reliability standpoint, well, it held its aim. I was actually doing some really good shooting even at the end of the day after all was said and done. 600 rounds being banged around and all that stuff, it held zero, and the actual red dot on it worked just fine, but some of the mechanical stuff on it's a little bit less than ideal. It works, but if you're going out plinking, absolutely I would suggest getting this red dot. It'll function for you, and as long as you're not beating on it too much, it'll keep functioning for you all day long. If you want to do something that's go-to-war type, I would not. But for I think $80, I think I paid for this at Optics Planet. Can't complain. So at any rate, the Kalinka optics mount, big thumbs up. Slight issue with the corrosion, but honestly, that's a chemical issue, and without them going to pure steel on this, I'm not sure what they could do to avoid it. Either that or going to polymer, and that's a whole kettle of other problems. The optics, mixed. It's not good when in handling the moisture, and the dust covers on it are not as robust as they need to be. But functionally, it actually did really well. The screws holding it onto the rail, no problem. It held 0 all day long, and even though it didn't have the best moisture seal on it, it still functioned after 8 or 9 hours. So I'd give the Kalinka mount probably a 9. I'd give this, the HiLux, for just an everyday plinking round optic, I'd say I'd give it a 9. But if you're saying go to war type of thing, I'd give it a 6 or a 7. So at any rate, this is Shooting Nerd signing off. Take care.